Welcome in, everybody, to a brand new show from FantasyPros. That's right, it's not just a new episode, it is a new show. And in this show, we're calling it very cleverly, Ask the Experts. Because guess what we're doing? We're answering your questions. I am Lauren Carpenter. You may know me as Stepmom Lauren, and I am here with my girl, Tara Roberts. You may know her as It's Tara Time. My girl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I could be better. It could be less hot, but overall, doing good.
Yeah, this heat is absolutely brutal, absolutely brutal. So, I mean, obviously, the show is about asking your fantasy questions. We are here to answer them for you. They could be draft questions, they could be in season questions. As we get to in season, they may even be trade questions. Who knows? But the important thing on how you get your questions onto this show, you got to follow a few steps. First of all, have a question. I mean, that's pretty obvious. We want you to have some good questions that will be able to help you and others who probably have a similar question to yours. Second, make sure that you are subscribed to our social media channels. To make sure that is as easy as possible, we have the links below in the description on this video. For example, if you post a question on YouTube, make sure you are a subscriber to our YouTube channel. If you post a question on Instagram, make sure you're following us on Instagram. You get the point. That's the gist. And lastly, make sure that you have the hashtag #AskTheExpert so that we know how to search for your questions. And this is what the show is all about, is helping everyone dominate in fantasy football. And I am super duper excited. So let's get started. Miss Tara, please, first on the docket. You go, girl. Get it.
All right. So our first question comes from Discord from a user named Mings. What's everyone's late tight end targets? I like Tanyan in the 10th right now. And so I'll answer this first. I do like Tanyan a lot. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. But the target that I'm doing for tight ends is actually Irv Smith. Irv Smith, I think, is really poised to make a good jump in 2020. And, the recent thing that I've heard that really has pushed Irv Smith over the edge for me is that basically there's no wide receiver 3 in the Vikings offense. So Irv Smith is technically the wide receiver 3. And when you're talking about a top 10 pass offense with a guy who's going to be on the field 70+% of the time, that's a great opportunity for me. There'll be a lot of tight end sets, 2 tight end sets. His connection with Kirk Cousins is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to snagging up Irv Smith anywhere that I can.
I love it. And I especially love that too, because Justin Jefferson is a little banked up in camp. So that could be even more opportunity for Irv Smith. I love that one. My late round target is like super late and super deep and kind of, old dog, maybe not new tricks, but Jared Cook. Come on, let's give some love to Jared Cook, who is now with the Chargers. And I don't know if anybody knew this or not, in case you didn't want to know. I think the Patriots took every single tight end in the league, including Hunter Henry. And he's kind of a red zone monster. He's vacating that spot, and Jared Cook is stepping in to basically become a bigger, more experienced, possibly more talented, dare I say, Hunter Henry. So I really like Jared Cook, and he is going super duper late. Yes, it's deep. Yeah, it's a little risky because, it's Justin Herbert. We're not exactly sure what we're going to see from him in the second year, but I absolutely love Jared Cook, although I do love Irv Smith too. And I was going to say that one. But the point of this series, in case anyone doesn't want to know, or if you do, you have to know, because I'm telling you, we're debating things. So we may actually agree with each other, but what we'll do is play devil's advocate so that you guys get both sides of the story and you can make the most informed decision for your squad. So let's go on to the next one here, Tara. We've got it from Josh Gator Fan 1, also from Discord. And Gator Fan, awesome. My daughter is at the University of Florida. She is likewise
nice.
A Gator. I hope that's the Gator that you meant, because that's the one I mean. But so he wants to know, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, or James Robinson, which one are we more comfortable drafting? Because they all have a lot going against them. So which one are we going for? I'm going to go ahead and step in here first here, because I don't like my answer at all. And I don't like any of these because I'm not confident in any of these. But if I did have to make a decision, which I do, because that's why you asked the question, I'm going to go ahead and go with James Conner. And the reason I'm throwing James Conner out there is because he is in a new situation now. He is on the Cardinals, and he will be working in tandem with Chase Edmonds. Now, I understand that will, diminish his volume and his touches a little bit, but that also doesn't mean that he's going to be the only one that is getting pounded into the ground week in and week out. So what that means for me is longer sustainability, because James Conner has been known for not being able to stay on the field significantly long or throughout seasons. So that's one of the knocks I have against James Conner. So one of the things I have in favor of him is that he is in a committee. Something to remember when you draft him, if you're going to go ahead and go with James Conner, he's in a committee, but he should stay on the field a little bit longer. And we're not exactly sure who is going to be getting those goal line touches yet. And it might be James Conner. I'm excited to see what he can do.
You make a lot of really good points on James Conner. I was kind of torn between James Conner or going Josh Jacobs, but I went with Josh Jacobs because I personally feel it's not as awful of a situation as everyone is making it out to be. I mean, it's not ideal that Kenyon Drake came in there, but it's not the worst thing in the world, because the thing you have to remember about Josh Jacobs is that it's not like he was actually a pass catching back. When you were looking at, if you go back and look at his stats from last year and look at the amount of targets that he had, in most of his games, there were a couple of anomalies, but for the most part, he's seeing anywhere from 1 to a max of 4. And 4 wasn't that often. And it's never for high yardage. So, and actually, he's never actually caught a touchdown pass in the NFL.
I think it was more to like save Derek Carr's life. He was like, oh my God, and then like dumped it off. And, Josh Jacobs was like, oh, the football.
Exactly. Yeah. Continue. It was not, it wasn't production that was anything good for us, right? From a fantasy perspective. So, so when I look at Kenyon Drake, he's going to come in there and he's going to help out with the pass catching needs, but Josh Jacobs is still going to be that same guy on the ground. And in those games where he only had 1 target, he still had anywhere from like 14 to 22 fantasy points. So he's going to still be usable. So as long as you're not drafting him too high, I am technically in on Josh Jacobs at the right spot.
I hear you. I've said this on this podcast. Well, not this podcast, because again, this is brand new, everybody. Ask the expert, #submit. Make sure you're subscribed. But I have said it on the Fantasy Pros podcast with Tags and Joe, and I'll say it again. Josh Jacobs is dead to me because of what he did to me last week 14. I don't like it. He's going too high. Actually, he's not. He's actually a pretty good value right now, but I'd rather wait until the 10th and grab Kenyon Drake. But I didn't want to bring up Josh Jacobs, but I do like your answer because I also agree with you on that too. But I'm going to go with James Conner and be cantankerous and a little fun.
Yes.
I'm going to take the next one because I love this name. Okay, this is from X Tidal Wave from YouTube. Like, come on. I love clever names like that.
Nice.
That's super cool.
Yes.
Okay, so X Tidal Wave needs some advice. First pick at wide receiver. Who are we going to take? Stefon Diggs, Davante Adams, or Tyreek Hill? This is like really hard because you'd think it'd be really easy, but it's not. Tara, I'm going to let you go first. Which one you got?
Yeah, they're all fantastic choices. I mean, you couldn't go wrong with any of them. Exactly. So, but if I have to pick, I lean towards consistency, and he's the closest thing to an absolute guarantee for me. The only non-top 10 season that he had was his rookie year, and then
you're talking Tyreek Hill, right?
Yes, Tyreek Hill. That's right. Tyreek Hill. And, the only non-top 10 season he had was in his rookie year. And then I think in 2019, he missed half the season due to injury. But, outside of that, he's the one person that I don't really have a what if happens. I don't have a what if Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw as many touchdowns. What if, what if Stefon Diggs starts to target maybe Gabe Davis a little more? I don't really have any of those fears with Tyreek Hill. So that's who I would go with in this group.
Yeah, and it was a toss-up for me too, because when we're talking about Josh Allen, he had like a phenomenal year last year that is probably due for just a touch of regression. Not a whole ton, but again, I don't look at any 3 of these and think, ew, I don't want these guys on my team. That's just not the case. But for me, my pick, if I had to pick between all these 3, and I've just said that like I have to. Of course I have to. Again, this is the show. Ask the experts. Ask the experts. Follow us. Social media.
Yes.
Submit your question. I'm going to go with Davante Adams. And I think the reason for me mostly is a very similar reason to why you like Tyreek Hill so much. And it really boils down to quarterback play for me. And again, Josh Allen is really good as well, but it is Aaron Rodgers. And we will see how he is going to just light the world up on fire and then prove to every other team, 31 teams in the NFL, why they're going to want him on their team in 2022. So I think we're going to be seeing some pretty exceptional things again from Aaron Rodgers. But again, like we were saying before, you really can't go wrong with either 3 of these guys. It's just impossible.
I'm a Packers fan, so everything you said
Oh,
was a
get
little
it.
it was a little painful for me, but it's very true. So I agree with you on that.
I'm sorry. Open wound. I'll grab the salt and the lemon and just like rub. I'm so sorry. That stinks. I'm a Saints fan, so imagine my pain right now.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas and that whole situation for another episode, though. But
Yes.
Tara, why don't you take the next one from Nick?
I will. And as a
Durbis?
Saints fan, yeah. Durbis, yes.
Durbis? I think that's right. I
I
will
think
probably
so.
butcher people's names. Just warning you. So don't be
Same.
offended.
Nick Durbis from Instagram. So his question was, at pick 103, who are we taking? Assuming that McCaffrey and Cook are off the board. So Lauren, you'll like this one.
I know.
My guy is Alvin Kamara. And, maybe it would have been a little bit different a couple weeks ago, but essentially now, short answer, he is the wide receiver one on that team.
Yeah.
So we've seen how well he's done without Michael Thomas. And it wouldn't shock me, unfortunately, if Michael Thomas not only wrote out the timeline for this injury, but maybe a little more just to kind of get back at the Saints for last year if he's feeling a little petty. I know all about that. But I just think the upside is so great regardless of who is at quarterback for him.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of people who are giving him a knock if it's Taysom Hill. Like, no, it's not. Yeah, there were 3 weeks that Taysom Hill didn't really do very well, but this is the first time he's ever been a full-time starter in the NFL. And he finally got his act together his 4th week when he ended up targeting, I think it was like 10 times or something ridiculous. So I think he's going to do well, just like you said, regardless of quarterback. And mine was Kamara as well, but I took someone else for sake of argument who I also happen to agree with. And I really like Ezekiel Elliott. He might fall a little bit further than the 3rd pick, but if you like Zeke like I do and you believe in a bounce back like I do, snagging him at the 103 is going to be worth it because Dak Prescott is back. The Cowboys are revamping everything that they're doing, and this is going to be a great year for Zeke. So I would hate to have him pass through my fingers simply because I could have he should be going at the 7 spot. Like, that's silly. Grab Zeke. He's going to be amazing. He's going to be a stud. That's just how he rolls. Well, he didn't last year, but he will this year. I hope. I'm hoping for that bounce back.
Exactly.
All right. We've got a question here from Joe from YouTube. Joe Ragusa. I hope I said that right because either that it's Rag USA. So we're just going to go with Ragusa from YouTube. So he is noticing that Kyle Pitts is actually dropping quite a bit in redraft leagues. Where do you feel comfortable drafting Kyle Pitts, rookie tight end for the Atlanta Falcons, in case anyone lives under a rock?
So I don't feel super comfortable drafting him.
I'm
not gonna lie.
I don't at all.
We're like totally in agreement on that one. I'm a big please don't reach for Pitts person.
Yes.
If he drops and you want to go for it, it's not personally my strategy, but if you want to, for sure. I'm someone that there's literally like a top 2, maybe the 3, if I'm saying like I feel comfortable with Kittle, depending on the quarterback situation. But I just don't like getting quarterbacks that are in that kind of 4 to 9 range, or a little uncomfortable for me as the quarterback or as the tight ends right there. But, when you look at his ADP right now on FantasyPros, it's 47. He's the tight end 4 overall. And that's just kind of crazy to me. Like to answer the question, maybe if he were to drop into the 6th round, I would advise maybe you can look at him then if that's your strategy. But aside from that, the production that you're getting out of guys that are around that area, like that's around a Deontay Johnson, a DJ Moore, a Cooper Kupp. That's, just don't risk it.
Yes, agreed. As someone who very foolishly took a tight end too early because I wasn't paying attention to what round I was in, I was not happy with the entire rest of my draft. There's no need to reach for someone like Kyle Pitts. Don't forget, we are talking a rookie tight end in the NFL. I understand that he is a unicorn. He is a phenom at life. 100% get it. I will be rooting for him in real football. But for 2021, I am not going anywhere near Kyle Pitts. And I really wish I could be like, no, draft him. It's great. I can't do that to you. I'm not even going to argue that point like at all. Now, if you do have that strategy, like you're saying, Tara, where he's going to fall like 6 below, he would have to fall to like the 10th for me to be like, okay, but I still would have another tight end. So there's no point in me drafting Kyle Pitts at all. I'll wait until he blows up and then, deal with it next year. I don't want to waste that kind of draft capital on an unknown commodity that we have for him. I like this next name from Discord. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, for sure. Ice Maddie from Discord half PPR, 12-team keeper league. I have the 8th pick, and I can only pick one keeper out of Josh Allen for a 7th round, David Montgomery for a 4th round, or Jonathan Taylor for a 2nd round. So for me, 2 of these are a little bit of a toss-up. But Lauren, I'm going to go contrary to your answer, and I'm going to go with David Montgomery. I do like Josh Allen, just because the value on Josh Allen is so good, but the value is also pretty good on David Montgomery. And the thing I want to advise and why it would maybe be better to go with Montgomery versus Josh Allen is look at the teams in your league. Try to evaluate and dig around and try and figure out who they might be keeping and what strategies they're going to be taking so you can get a feel of what running backs are going to be off the board and available for you. So if you get the feeling that there may be a lot of running backs that are going to be taken and you might not get that opportunity to get someone, I really love David Montgomery as an RB2. And his current ADP is 28th overall. And so getting him for value in the 4th is not bad at all. He's one of my favorite RB2s. And Tyreek Cohen is still unfortunately injured. I don't see Damian Williams really stepping up to be a huge threat in splitting time. So I think that they're probably going to keep the ball rolling with David Montgomery like they did last year. And he's going to get a great opportunity to really be a guaranteed RB2 with maybe some RB1 upside in the right situation.
I think people who are Jonathan Taylor truthers are going to be throwing massive shade at us because,
yes.
as you alluded to, I'm going Josh Allen here for a 7th because his ADP is through the roof. Keep him. Your quarterback situation is now already done, especially in super flex leagues, especially in high, scoring quarterbacks leagues. One of mine is absolutely insane. And so I have that option. I wouldn't even hesitate. Now, the reason I think both of us stayed away, at least the reason I stayed away from Jonathan Taylor, is because that's for a 2nd round. I don't believe in Jonathan Taylor in 2021 enough to justify a 2nd round for him. If it were a later round, absolutely. I don't think I would hesitate. But for that 2nd round for Jonathan Taylor, that is very pricey. And you chose David Montgomery, which is a great counterpoint here because last year, Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery were neck and neck, and it wasn't like they were RB2 and 3. This was before they ended up having explosive games, and they both had to rely on mediocre to poor run defenses in order to do well. Jonathan Taylor is that exact same player. Okay, that's a gross exaggeration. Jonathan Taylor was a similar player to that last year, and he did rely on poor defenses against the run in order to have good fantasy, weeks. And don't forget, Marlon Mack is back. They also still have Nyheim Hines. There's some questions at the quarterback position, which I know is usually a little bit better for the run game. But both of us just staying away from Jonathan Taylor at that 2nd, I think is what that whole point was, which was good. But I like Josh Allen. He's a stud. Let's go. I also do like Diggs too, even though I chose Davante Adams in my earlier question. Diggs is also a stud.
Yes.
All right. And we also, this is another one from YouTube. And remember, guys, if you're submitting your questions on our social channels, make sure you are either following, subscribed, or liked to that social channel. So this stray urge, I think I should snicker here when I say that, from YouTube. Make sure you're following us. If you are, thank you. And here is your question. Would we rather have Kenny Golladay, Antonio Brown, or Robbie Anderson disregarding ADP? I'm going to go jump in here first because I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to go with Antonio Brown. And I love Antonio Brown this year. He had the opportunity to be a stud last year with Tom Brady. And here's what was so fascinating. He was coming off suspension, by the way. He was signed 2 weeks before he saw the field. He has to learn a new offense. He actually didn't even play football. It was absolutely nuts. Not only that, but Tom Brady was on a new team, learning a new offense. And all of these things were just up in the air. Did it matter? No, they still went on and won the Super Bowl. And if you stat out Antonio Brown's weeks, if he were to have played a full season, we're talking low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 numbers. And that was him rusty. So all day long, I will have Antonio Brown and I will, be slightly nervous about maybe some kind of a setback, but yeah, give me a piece of that offense. And I really like Antonio Brown, especially at his value.
So I'm glad you went first because I would have said Antonio Brown too. But
I took it first.
Yes. But so it's hard to disagree with you, but I will make the case for Kenny Golladay because I probably don't.
Another one I like too.
Yeah, I don't hate him as much as so many other people do. I am a little like stressed out over the injury, which I don't get stressed out over preseason injuries, but when it comes off of the season that he had last year, that would stress you
Yes.
out as a Kenny Golladay owner. But
Yes. Oh my
yes.
gosh. Yes.
Mhm. But so yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with you because point blank, if Brown had had a full season, he would have outscored Robbie Anderson. So that one's kind of easy right there. And he would have been pretty close to, we can't look at last year, but Galladay's 2019 season, he would have been pretty
Mhm.
close to that. So there's not a huge difference for them. And, you know, ADP aside, because that's the big kicker that would make it a super obvious answer for everyone.
Yes.
So yeah, to make sure that you know that so people don't think we're crazy. We probably like
Yes.
it's ADP aside.
Regardless of ADP, there's no such thing.
In a bubble of no ADP.
Yes.
So
That'd
I'm
be awesome.
yes. But like I think that Daniel Jones, you know, a lot of people say that, oh my gosh, you know, Daniel Jones is going to bring Kenny Golladay down. And I don't think that's the case because Kenny Golladay, you know, his best season was 2019 and he did catch half his passes from Jeff Driscoll and David Blau. And he did okay. I mean, he had multiple 20-point games. You know, it wasn't fantastic, but it was good wide receiver 2 value. So I think he can still put up that same volume here in a situation where he's the known wide receiver 1 on the team.
Yeah, I definitely see that argument as well. So for me, it was the choice, regardless of ADP. Just throwing that out there again, so everyone remembers. It was a choice between Golladay and Antonio Brown, but I snuck in Antonio Brown first. All right, we have 2 more questions left, and the next question, Tara and I both really kind of agree with, but let's touch on this anyway because I do feel like people have this question, and it's hard to avoid. And make sure you don't do this at your draft. But if you do, it's okay. I have a workaround. All right. Would you ever consider drafting 2 wide receivers from the same team? And this comes from Aaron Robinson from Instagram because he is finding himself in his drafts looking at like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, and then Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp as the highest ranked player when he's getting to that spot. So he doesn't know if that is okay, if it's not okay. Aaron, it's not okay. Don't do that. Like, I would highly recommend not doing that. And the reason I say this is because you're giving up the value of that one of those wide receivers when you could go for another position or you could go for a wide receiver on another team because those guys are so neck and neck. It's really hard to decide which one you're going to be starting. How do you make that choice? That's going to be tough. Now, there is a world where you could have 2 wide receivers from the same team on your fantasy team. But we're talking, like we just mentioned, Antonio Brown, someone like Mike Evans with Antonio Brown, because Brown's ADP is so far away from Mike Evans, you're not really wasting too much draft capital to get that second wide receiver. Still don't love it. I would try to diversify your portfolio a little bit. You know, another one might be a Tyreek Hill and a Mecole Hardman. You know, Mecole Hardman is probably going undrafted or is going to be one of the last picks. You know, he's more of an insurance player, you know, than really one of your starters. And that's really the only place that I can see that in. Tara, I think you and I are both on the same page on this one. Do you have anything else you wanted to throw in on that one?
Yeah, I'll limit it because again, you said it perfectly. The only thing I will add in is that, you know, the main thing, you know, it significantly limits your upside, but then also you're in a complete debacle situation if
Yes.
that quarterback goes down. So we're look at, you know, CD and Amari, it's all good until your quarterback goes down with an injury. And then all of a sudden your wide receiver 1 and 2 that you're floating out there and feeling pretty confident, you're struggling to replace them both. So, you know, just don't take the risk.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Now, if you have already, you know, made said mistake and you have all accidentally found yourself in this situation, fear not. This is what the trade is for. So start shopping around one of those players and see if you can try to trade for a different player, a different, like for this example, wide receiver, or maybe a different position. And then you'll be able to go forward from there. Tara, wrap us up here. We got one last question. You take it away.
It's a simple question. I'm gonna have a name issue. Creed McCowick from
I
Instagram.
totally did not mean to just give you the super hard last name. It totally sounds like I just did. Okay, you tried, I'll try. Creed McCowiak.
I think
Right?
you're right. Yes, I think you're closer than I was. But it's
think
a simple question. Yeah.
Creed. We'll call you Creed. Awesome name, by the way. Tara, who you got?
So Zeke or Chubb in full PPR. So really, I would like to go with Zeke here. I would, because I'm drafting him a ton, but I can make the argument for why Chubb does make sense. And for me, it's all about your draft strategy.
Yes.
Zeke is a little bit riskier because we're looking at someone to bounce back from last year because he did have a down year. And we can say that, hey, maybe it wasn't that he was, as some people say, Zeke is washed. I don't believe that. But, maybe it wasn't that he was washed. It was just, that Dak went down and the whole situation just kind of blew up.
Hot mess.
Yes. But that is a reason you could go with Chubb. He is a known production guy. He's a guarantee. And if Chubb had played a full season, his production would have definitely been better than his 2019 season. So he is a guarantee, is a top 10 back if everything goes the right way and he plays the full season, regardless. And, comparatively, Zeke's ceiling is definitely higher. He is the higher upside. So it really just depends on if you want to take the risk of that big upside or if you want to go with the guy that's the guarantee.
Yeah, and it's really comes down to they both have safe floors. Chubb doesn't necessarily have that pass catching upside, but he has the legs to do it too. So for me, the more I thought about this question, I was like, this is kind of like our wide receiver question we had between Stefon Diggs and Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill. It's like you can't really go wrong with either one of these players. They're both exceptional, and they will both likely finish top 10. So either way, I think the only thing that separates either of these two out is, like you mentioned, Tara, it's PPR. And that's just what's going to be helping Zeke, get maybe just a little bit higher than Nick Chubb. And that's, it's kind of, they're both good players. So don't overthink it. Don't be cute with it. But that wraps up our very first episode on this brand new show, #AskTheExperts. Remember, when you want to ask us a question, that you are subscribed to our social media channels. Again, those links are down in the description of this video. And make sure you are subscribed to whichever social media channel you are asking the question on. Don't forget to put the #AskTheExperts so that we know how to search for your questions. And you guys, thank you so much. Also, don't forget to follow us, Stepmom Lauren. It's Tara time. And we will see you guys soon, hopefully within like a week or so. Real football, guys. Preseason.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @FantasyPros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.